This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express Monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's pod. This is the weekly review of October 2nd, 2021, even though we're now recording this on a Tuesday. It's a very special show. Happy birthday to Walt Disney World. This is our birthday episode. Only reason we're recording this on a Tuesday is because Phil got back on a Sunday, and he messaged me, I don't know, like middle of the afternoon. He's like, hey, are we recording tonight? I'm like, what? You're still sane from like your wild trip? I don't want to do this tonight. You need to freshen up. So, and then, work got in the way. And then here we are on Tuesday. Give Phil plenty of time to let the trip marinate. Right.
Yes.
So we're not going to catch Phil on like the bad vibes of being home. And the trip is over. It's like he went back to work. He's now relaxed. He has fond memories of the trip. He's not sad anymore, or at least not as sad anymore, right. That he's home. And we're going to talk about the 50th anniversary. So this is going to be a lot of opinions on a lot of stuff. And I want to warn everybody out there, because I know we have a couple listeners that don't like spoilers. We're going to be talking about all the rides, all the shows, and so this is going to be a spoiler-heavy show. Not that we're going to have any visuals of the Disney, the shows or anything else like that. So if you're watching on YouTube, we're not going to be showing anything. But we're going to talk about Phil's opinion of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which I think is the only ride that you haven't done. Is that correct, Phil?
Well, and then also we got on Ratatouille.
Ratatouille, I forgot. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. And that's the one I haven't been on either.
Right.
But it's not a brand new ride. It's been in
right.
for a while. And that being said, so if you don't want to listen, just put the volume all the way down and just let it play through. So we get some watching minutes. You could do us a favor. No, just kidding. So we're going to try to announce what we're going to talk about as we go along. So if you want to skip ahead or something else like that and not listen, we'll try our best. But just fair warning, we're going to be talking about stuff and a lot of Diz Twitter reaction to it, which is always hilarious. That being said, one of the interesting things is the Disney Comeback Index is skyrocketing. Buy some stock in DCI. The NASDAQ is coming up. We're sitting at a whopping 73.74. It feels like it's been like 3 months since it hit 70, Phil. I mean, wasn't that?
It was forever. It was like creeping up to 70. And now we've just blown right by it. So
it's only gonna go higher with all the different additions that are coming back within the next couple months. Our last show together was with Matt, right? With DCI, was that our last show with?
That was our last show together, and then you did the solo one after that. But that was our last one together. Yes.
Oh my God, that solo show! Did anybody watch or download that episode? I don't know.
Some people did.
I didn't look.
I will say I think there were fewer downloads, but they were downloads.
Of course. I mean, I think those are all like the automatic downloads that no one actually played. We decided to put something up because that was the weekend you were going away, and I didn't want to cram a show in there. And with you anyway, not stressing you out and all this other stuff. I don't know what we've been talking about. So we're going to save this all for this week. So that being said, I just realized I've been talking with the DCI index coming up. So a couple of the things that have been popping back on the DCI index, friendship boats, monorail special lighting, got some special bonus points there, which is pretty cool. Grand Flow Pianist, the Frontier Arcade, which is next week's attractionality, I believe. That just wrapped up today. We're no DBC expedition this week. No attractionality. It's going to be an hour long of listening to Phil tell the stories. Create beer. I mean, there's a huge list of things here. I'm going to switch back on the screen of the different things you can go onto the DCI link and kind of dig into there. But big comeback this week or the last 2 weeks, so that's cool. But we're gonna breeze through the news because there's actually some things worth mentioning here.
Yes.
But we're going to save most of the time for Phil. So, Phil, take it away. Welcome back.
Thank you so much. So starting with some news items. The first item is that information came out about Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser, an opening date officially opening on March 1st, 2022. Bookings will fully open on October 28th for general bookings, although Club 33 Golden Oak can book starting today, actually, October 5th. Starting on the 7th, DVC and pass holders can start booking, and then Disney Visa Chase holders can start on October 12th. So there was already starting to be, trickling out some information about how things are going. They released the floor plans, which, everything that's coming out is just making this more and more clear that Disney is looking at this as a cruise. They released the deck plans just like on a cruise. One thing that also came out with it is how you have to pay the money. You have to put down 20% up front. And then there's a 90-day, you have to pay in full by 90 days. So all that is more similar to booking a cruise than booking a resort at Walt Disney World.
The one thing I have, because it's not a cruise, but because it's similar to a cruise, it's more difficult to find somebody to fill your spot on short notice. So that's why they're asking. Because like at a hotel, they could easily find somebody to fill your spot at a hotel. On something that costs $1 million a night, it's rather difficult.
Yep.
Or we could be like another show that talks about Adventures by Disney like every week for 40 minutes to promote. Never mind.
Yeah, we're not booking this, so otherwise maybe we would.
We're not getting paid.
We're not getting any money off this. But just so you know, they did opening day pricing for 2 people. As of now, I'm assuming this will be yielded like on cruises and stuff, but opening day was $5,200 for 2 people for the 2 nights. Ooh. That compares to their example pricing, which was for like a September, so like the slowest time was $4,800. So a little bit more, not like double or anything like that, but it is a little bit more as expected.
Very pricey.
Got to save your Galactic credits for that one. The other big news that came out was that MagicBand Plus is announced and is set to launch in 2022. And I have to say, this one was an announcement that kind of freaked me out because it came out while I was on my trip, and I'm like, wait, when is this coming out? Do I need to buy these like now? Like what's going? But then we don't know when until 2022. I'm like, okay, all right, I got a little time. But they're basically just going to be more interactive. They said they're going to interact with things like the golden statues that are around. They're going to help you be a bounty hunter in Galaxy's Edge. People are speculating they'll be used a lot on the Galactic Star Cruiser. Sure. It says they'll be light up and do things to complement the fireworks shows. So almost like sounds a little like those glow with the show ears, except it'll work on your MagicBand Plus and stuff like that. So it's kind of exciting. I mean, it's always good, when they stopped giving out the free ones, people are like, oh, are they going away from MagicBands and stuff like that?
No.
Like clearly not. They see there's money to
make so much money off those. Yeah. No, I mean, like, I have questions, right?
Yeah.
So this is essentially a Fitbit, right? It's got the lightweight, it's got the electronics in it, it charges like a Fitbit, that type of thing. So what I have to imagine they're going to be costs similar to a Fitbit, probably anywhere between, what's the most expensive MagicBand, normal MagicBand? It's around like $30 to $50, right? For
limited edition ones are like $35. There's like the Dooney and Burks are a little more, but figure 35 or so.
So and I think your basic one is probably going to be $50 if you book it with a package, $90 if you just walk up to a store and buy one. And then of course they go up depending how fancy you want to get, right?
Yeah.
So what are they going to do for you, right? So I'm one that having a nice pattern on your band, a lot of them look cool. It's not super important to me. I was always okay with like the solid colors. Or I'll spend $10 to get one with like Mickey on it. And that's kind of fun, right? I'm not spending the big money like RC in Discord that has $1,000 worth of Magic Bands in a week that he purchases. So what is this going to get you, right? So they going over some things. Like I don't know how it's going to interact with the golden statues. Like the golden statues when I was there a couple of weeks ago didn't look like they were just golden statues, unless this thing is going to start playing music and tinkling when you walk near it.
That's what I think is going to happen, is that maybe when you go by the character, it'll make a noise that the character would make or something like that. But I think it'll be the thing will happen on your band, not that something will happen with the statues. But
so just lights and sound then, right? I would like to see like the different posts that you put your Magic Band to. They play a certain song, they do a certain thing. I don't know. I think there needs to be more than like this twinkles and makes sounds randomly throughout the park. It's got to attach to my cell phone. I got to be able to like know how many steps I'm taking in the park. It's got to have all of that stuff in it, especially if you're paying like $100. A Fitbit's like $90, right? So if it has that form and function, this thing, because these things are tracked by GPS, so they could easily track how much you're moving in a day.
Oh yeah.
So that it's got to have some kind of functionality for me to actually spend the money on it, like not shiny lights. Because if I'm going to buy it, I got to buy 3 of them for my kids. I got to buy 1 for my wife. So now we're looking at $300 to $500 on the vacation.
I know, just have these bands. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have questions. We'll learn more though.
And then the last news items we wanted to touch on is just some returning and also new items coming to Walt Disney World. A lot of it is around entertainment, which is great. I think that's one of the big reasons the DCI is seeing the big increase. So already back, we know that the Casey's Pianist was back, as well as the Drummers in Japan and Alberta Bound in Canada. We saw both of those while we were there, so that was really great to see. It just adds, more life to the parks when you hear live music and stuff like that. You already mentioned about the lights being added to the monorails. We saw those as well. It makes them look really cool. And it's like not just lights, they're color-coded lights to the color of the monorail. So it's pretty neat seeing them go around.
How does that look in motion? I haven't watched any videos of that.
It's pretty cool. I mean, it's not like it's one of those things like this is a neat little extra thing. Like when you see the monorails going around the loop in Epcot and they have the lights on at night and you kind of see the streak of light going around and stuff like that. It's pretty
futuristic, neat. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
Yeah, it's almost a little Tron-ish or whatever, but
I'm surprised they haven't done it before.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that really caught people by surprise is they actually adding a display to the electric water pageant for the 50th. It's an outline of Cinderella Castle with a big 50 in it and stuff like that, and it's playing the theme song. So it's just really cool because that's one of those things I think people are expecting, like that could be on the cutting floor, right? They don't make money off the electric water pageant, but in fact they're actually putting money into it, so it's nice.
But those things are just chicken wire and lights. Yeah. I mean, they're not that expensive. I mean, we could make that in our backyard, I think.
Yeah, probably. We should do that. Maybe. We could fail at trying to do it.
Yes.
The big one, though, is that character meet and greets are coming back in November. There's just a select few of them. It'd be indoor, socially distanced. They already said you will not be able to give a hug or get an autograph, but hey, these are more formal meet and greets, including Mickey Mouse at Town Square on Main Street, the Disney Princesses at Fairy Tale Hall in Magic Kingdom, Minnie Mouse Red Carpet of Dreams at Hollywood Studios, and then the Disney Junior Courtyard in Hollywood Studios, which those I know my kids when they were young always liked those, and that was something for them to do in Hollywood Studios. So
I think the big one is
in the right direction.
Yeah, the big one is meeting the princesses because when we went, we're going to talk about this later, how the feel of the parks and stuff like that, this is a big portion of it. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. My daughter, for the first time, for that she would somewhat remember this trip where she's going to be fully impacted by it, was not able to meet or see any princesses her whole trip, her whole day in Magic Kingdom, and I was kind of heartbroken. Again, we weren't there for specifically that. We knew that we were going in that we were not going to do it, so it's not total disappointment. But I thought, hopefully we could catch like a cavalcade or see them on a balcony somewhere by the train station or somewhere. But there's nowhere reliable that you could go to kind of see them.
I mean, not to spoil things, but we did have a little bit of luck. I won't mention details now. So we did see some, but again, it was like, for the most part, it's like, oh, we happened upon the cavalcade. It wasn't like versus like being able to like plan like, okay, we're going to go meet them in Fairy Tale Hall and have a specific meet and stuff like that.
Yeah. We got to see two of the Evil Stepsisters or the Evil Stepsisters do their performance at Fairy Tale Hall. That was kind of fun, but it's not like you're meeting Cinderella.
Yeah. And then the last one returning, we had some rumors or speculation about that, but a modified version of the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular will be returning to Disney's Hollywood Studio on December 19th. So it's good to get another show, something else for people to do in Hollywood Studios, another thing to eat people.
Yes, very big. I think this is much needed. It's probably going to be a shorter show because I think they're probably
I assume they'll be dropping
it a little bit.
I assume they'll drop the crowd participation element where they bring somebody out of the crowd and up and stuff like that, but it's still good to have something back.
Yep.
And with that, I will remind you of our social media accounts where I was pushing out some pictures and stuff like that from my trip. Twitter @PodDBC, Instagram, the DBC Podcast, Facebook, DBC Pod, our YouTube channel, and of course the Discord server where I will be writing up more of my trip report if anybody wants more details.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff. So the YouTube channel, I haven't checked in a week, but a couple days ago or a week ago, we're very close to hitting that 100 subscriber mark. Yeah. So please, if you're listening out there, there's lots of downloads every week. There's plenty of people downloading that have not subscribed to our YouTube channel. I don't care if you've never go on YouTube. I don't care if you have to go make 5 Gmail accounts. Like, let's go. Let's just keep making a lot of subscriptions. We need them. We're almost there. So we appreciate everybody's support and supporting us in all the different platforms. One of the big things for every podcast is if you do have an iPhone or an iTunes account, go out there and give us 5 stars for the 50th anniversary in a review. You can leave the review blank. It doesn't matter. Yeah. You could rate 5 stars and say you guys stink, and that'll be fine too. But we just want the 5 stars. It helps other people find this podcast, helps us grow, which we really appreciate. And we're still not asking for money or donations. We don't have a Patreon. All we do is ask for 5 little stars, a couple clicks. We appreciate that. Okay, so the rest of the show, the much awaited, much anticipated 50th anniversary show. I'm sure everybody who's been watching, listening, Twitter. There's no surprises here. Everybody's been listening to some of their other favorite vloggers out there. They go to the parks every day. But we appreciate you guys listening to us and seeing a couple guys from the Northeast talk about the 50th with somebody's. See, I'm going to say it's not unbiased, but non-cynical view of Disney. You're not tweeting out hot takes of how, like Braden does about how the Spaceship Earth will never be maintained this way. It's going to be turned off in a year. And the pumps, and he's just, it's just like, can we just have fun for like a week? I know. Come on. All right, so let's lay the groundwork. I don't want to talk anything about Universal because you spent a couple days at Universal first. But lay out, because I want to start with your transition, right? We're going to start talking about leaving Universal, going to Disney. So when did you fly in? How long were you there? And each day, what did you do? And then we'll circle back to the beginning.
Yeah. So we flew in on Sunday the 26th. We had a nice early 7 a.m. flight. And then we had a car service that brought us over to Universal. Obviously, no Magical Express over there. We decided to use the car service for all 3 legs of our journey. So what we did was we took the car service to Universal on the 26th, and then we transitioned to Disney on Wednesday the 29th. And we also had that same service pick us up on Sunday, October 3rd, to bring us back to the airport.
Is this the one that you recommended a short while ago?
Yes, it's FL Tours. We used them. Everything was great, reasonably priced. On the way over, they did a stop at Publix for us. So we were able to pick up like sunscreen and things like that we didn't want to. Nice. We only had carry-ons and stuff like that. All brand new cars. Drivers were real nice, real safe. Everything was clean. Everybody wore masks and stuff like that. So definitely happy with the service provided.
So we're day by day. Go ahead. So you got there.
So on the 29th, we got there. We had a 2:00 pickup at our Universal Resort. And then we went over to Caribbean Beach, which is where we were staying. Check-in time is officially 3:00. We put in a request for around 2:30. At 2:00, we got a notice saying your room is not ready. It's like, okay, well, thanks for letting me know. They said we'll let you know when it's ready, or give you another update in 45 minutes. So we were hanging out in the lobby just a little bit, and right at about that 45-minute mark, we got notified that our room was ready. For those of you that know Caribbean Beach, there's all the different areas. We had requested to be in Jamaica, which was near the main Skyliner hub. They put us in Aruba. It worked out really well because we're literally the building next to the Riviera station. So we were like a 2-minute walk to the Skyliner station.
Nice.
And that wound up working out really well.
Well, let me stop you a second because so your first day at Walt Disney, you transferred from Hollywood's Universal to your resort on, what was that? That was a Friday, correct?
Wednesday.
You got to Universal on a Wednesday, or you got to Disney?
We got to Universal on the Sunday, and then we transferred on Wednesday the 29th.
Okay. You know what screwed me up? I'm looking on a October calendar on the 20th. So 29th was the Wednesday.
Yes, September 29th, I should specify, yes. September 29th. Yes,
no, I'm looking. My calendar screwed up. Sorry. So you got there, Disney World on the 29th. You spent, where were you on Thursday?
Yeah, so first thing we did on our Wednesday night, though, was we had booked
Stop. I got this all read up.
Oh, you want me to do all the days? Okay, yeah.
Where were you every single day? And then we'll go back to the beginning.
Yeah, so Thursday the 30th, we had a Hollywood Studios day. Mm-hmm. Then October the 1st, we were in Magic Kingdom for the actual 50th celebration. Saturday, October 2nd, we were at Epcot. And then on October 3rd, nice and early, we headed back to the airport. So we just had 3 park days, Hollywood Studios, Magic Kingdom, and Epcot. We did not make it to Animal Kingdom this trip. Sorry, Ryan and Zach.
Okay, so you mentioned we're going back to beginning. So I'm going to lead you through your vacation. So that gotcha. I've got a load of questions here. So, so like you said, you got car service from Universal to Disney World. We saw the pictures of you entering the gates, so to speak, of the world, which was great. You said you got there, your room wasn't ready, so you're hanging out at the resort. So how is, because everybody has the experience if you're big on property, is you show up at the resort, it's like the fresh day, right? Like you got nothing to do except for a couple plans in your head. Nothing's like timed. You had a cruise later that night, but like at this point you're just like, okay, what do we do? It's like the exploring, the resort day. It's kind of hanging out, and you're just kind of waiting for your vacation to start. Mm-hmm. So how was Caribbean Beach kind of welcoming you in? How were the grounds? How were the crowds? That sort of thing.
Yeah, so there were quite a few people at the front of the building. I don't know if it seemed like more people, maybe their trip was ending and they were getting picked up or whatever. Mm-hmm. But once we got past them into the lobby was fairly empty. Plenty of cast members around. Everything was spotless. Disney is very adamant about mask wearing indoors. So there's signs all over like the main buildings, everything. When you go in, signs, put masks on. And we were just kind of hanging out in the resort, just waiting for that kind of 45-minute mark to come up. And then when it did, we got our room and we left and walked to our room with all of our bags and trudged on. But overall, the grounds were beautiful. You know, we love that resort when you see the Skyliner going by. The pool was jumping. It had the bar there by the pool. So, overall, it felt pretty kind of normal.
So if you were following my trip report in Discord, I knew that I was going to be competing with Phil on adult beverage pictures throughout the park. So I was trying to keep up, and I got beat pretty bad on this. So this guy knows how to do vacation. So how did the resort feel from let's say no one was wearing masks. Let's say if we could ignore the mask or blank them out in your mind. Yeah. Did it feel like a normal Disney trip?
I think it did, like you said, other than the masks. And I felt the crowd levels at the resort it felt lively. Like it felt like there were people there. I know this is jumping ahead a little bit, but like when we went to the pool, it was full, but it wasn't like crazy. Like we had no issue finding like a table or chairs to sit up on and stuff like that. But there's still people jumping around, in the pool and going down the slides and stuff like that. So it felt alive and full, but not crazy packed.
Have you ever stayed at the Caribbean Beach Resort before?
We did. Our last trip, actually, in February of 2020 was familiar, also there. Yeah, these are the only 2 times we've stayed there. And I would say that time, actually, I felt like the pool was busier. It was harder to find a chair and stuff like that then. So I don't know if it was just the dates we picked or whatever. But, like I said, it was crowded, but not slammed where, like, you couldn't move places and stuff like that.
So you got checked in. What time did you get all your stuff settled in?
So it was about 2:45 that we started walking over, and by the time we got there, it was probably around 3, and we're getting settled in the room, putting stuff away, and just kind of figuring out where everything is, getting toiletries set up and stuff like that, and just kind of vegging for a little bit. Although we didn't stay too long.
So did you do the pool, then started heading over to the Seven Seas Lagoon, or what was
no?
The action
we went
afternoon?
Pretty much right after that. We wanted to head over to the Magic Kingdom area, and so we did. We went to the Riviera to get the bus from there because it was closer, and I know Riviera has a dedicated bus versus Caribbean Beach has like a shared bus. So the fact that we were so close to the Riviera worked out really well for that. Beautiful resort for people that haven't been there. We walked through the lobby and stuff like that.
You know what, Phil? I'm going to give you a tweet for social media. This is what you do. You circle the area you stayed at and as a recommendation of a great place to stay, because I think that's something that people don't consider is like, you want to be close to the front of the building and where all the food is, but you're going to and from the parks more often. So you got the Skyliner thing, and then you've got the Riviera. That's a good tip. I didn't even think about direct bus from Riviera. So cool. Yeah,
it actually worked out well because we were more for our Magic Kingdom day. We were wondering how we were going to do it because we obviously have to bus there. And this was kind of our test for that. How does it work getting the bus from Riviera? Worked out quite well. We had to wait, maybe 20 minutes or something like that, but came no problem. And we went over, obviously brings you to the bus areas of the Magic Kingdom. Had to go through security this was our first time going through security with the new scanners where you don't have
They're
to.
They're pretty great. I love them.
Yeah, of course. First time through, my bag sets it off.
Of course.
We found out when the guy emptied everything was apparently our sunglass cases have something that set it off. So then for the rest of the trip, we always just took our sunglass cases out of our bag and kind of held them up, and it never set it off again. So
how were the buses? Buses just as crowded as everybody else kind of talks about them, or they were like worrisome a little bit? No,
it was it wasn't like, other than obviously when we're leaving at the end of the night at parks and stuff like that. But for most of the bus trips, we never had like an empty bus, but they were kind of like pretty much say 80% of the seats were full, but not really anyone standing.
Not too bad.
So, yeah.
So you got there. You had let's just frame the day. You're there because you have a fireworks cruise that evening, correct?
Yeah,
what time did you have to get there?
So we had to check in at the TTC for that at 6:45. What we did prior to that was, because that was just had like snacks and desserts and stuff, we figured we had to eat somewhere. So we actually took the monorail over to the Polynesian. Met up with some friends that were down there for the 50th as well. We sat out at the outside area for Trader Sam's on the terrace. They had the live music going. We got Trader Sam's drinks. We ordered food from Captain Cook's, and just had a good time hanging out with people and doing all that sorts of stuff.
You've been on property for like 4 hours. I'm already jealous of your vacation. This is awesome. Okay, so why did you decide to do the fireworks cruise, and how was it?
So obviously we didn't have a ticket for that day. We only bought 3-day tickets, and we wanted to see Happily Ever After one final time, and it turned out that the 29th was going to be the final performance for Happily Ever After. So we were trying to figure out what to do. We were trying to like get California Grill to watch from there or something like that, and then we're like, well, maybe we'll just get drinks and watch it from the Poly Beach or something. And then they announced that the Fairy Tale cruise was coming back. I got up, nice and early the morning they went on sale and got our spots for the 29th. And so we thought it would be a good opportunity to try it from a different view. I read some reviews from before it had shut down initially from COVID, and people said, it was plenty of space on it. They didn't feel crowded. So we thought that would be nice. And just something different to do. So that's why we decided to do, was kind of our, we all had matching shirts on for Happily Ever After and stuff like that. So it's kind of our a send off for Happily Ever After.
Pretty good. So good viewing angles. Are you out there for a little bit beforehand and a little bit after, and that's basically it? Or
so beforehand, that you're out for a good little bit. They take the ferry around. They kind of pass the Grand Floridian, the Polynesian. They're telling you all about the hotels and what they were based on and when they were built and stuff like that. They also had an activity for the kids where there's hidden Mickeys like painted on the boat, but they only show up when they gave all the kids blacklight flashlights, and they only appear when you shine blacklight on them.
That's cool.
So they had to go around and find them, and then each one has a letter, and you spell out a word and stuff like that. So it was something for the kids to do. And then obviously while they're going around, there's lots of free included drinks and snacks and stuff like that. I'd say the only criticism maybe I had was they could use more tables for having people out. Fortunately, we found another family that let us share their table, so that was good. Nice. So we were chatting with them. They were really nice and stuff like that. And we'd also helped out, like, oh, hey, you want another drink? I'm going down, like that sort of thing. So it worked out really well in the end.
Perfect.
And then it sets up a little bit behind the islands, kind of in between them. It was actually a little further back than I thought we would be, but it turned out to provide a really nice view. You really could see all the fireworks. You could see the castle. You could see the projections. Not super detailed, but if you kind of knew what was going on, you could tell. Mm-hmm. Really good view for watching Tinkerbell fly. So I thought that was great. Obviously, they pipe in the music and everything. Yeah, they pipe in all the music and stuff like that. One other thing that I thought was nice with the cruise was they had PhotoPass photographers. They took a picture before you got on the boat of everyone, but they also had them on the boat. So they were taking pictures of people on the boat, even during fireworks. So you got pictures of with the fireworks behind you and stuff like that. So I thought that was a nice little extra that I didn't know was going to happen. The other thing they do is they give you a lanyard that lights up and these Mickey Vision glasses. They kind of look like 3D glasses. And when you look at lights through them, it turns them into Mickey heads.
Oh, so I've seen those before.
Yeah, and they actually work pretty well. They were kind of fun. It's just like, not like, I certainly wouldn't book the cruise to get that, but it was kind of like a nice little extra thing to have. So that was fun.
They were giving those out. I mean, we had to pay for them, but when we did the Hershey lights that they do every single year in Hershey Park, they had the same thing, but they made it look like fireworks rather than Mickey heads. So it's pretty neat. Yeah,
and then when we leave, everyone gets a cookie, and the kids got balloons and stuff. So it was definitely a fun little thing. I wouldn't. Overall, I wouldn't do this if this is the first time you're seeing the show, because you can't see the projections that well and stuff like that. But if you see the show,
see it now. Anyway, it's gone.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, I meant going forward for any fireworks show. But if you've seen it a number of times and you kind of like, I think it worked out great for Arrival Day when we're not doing a park. Mm-hmm. It was a nice thing to do. It
was it worth the cash, you think?
I think so for us, for like a special thing, seeing the end of Happily Ever After, not having to deal with the crowds, that we've had some bad experiences in the hub for Happily Ever After. So I think it was totally worth it. It's kind of a special occasion thing. I wouldn't do it all the time. But if you're looking for something different to do, I would recommend it. It was a nice evening.
Okay, so you went back, you retired, probably had a drink right before you go into bed type of thing, get ready for your Disney Hollywood Studios day.
Yes,
and so I'm pretty excited to ask you about. You had a little bit of a journey with trying to get the standby Rise of the Resistance lines.
Correct. Yes.
So and your reviews of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. So let's start with the standby lines. My sister was like, "Oh, these are going to be crazy." As soon as they announced them, we have our own Discord channel, and I was like, "It's not going to be that bad. I guarantee you, it's not going to go above an hour and a half." Technically, they went to 2 hours or 100 and did it hit 3? I can't remember if it hit 3.
Yeah, the first day I think it might have hit either right at or close to 3 hours, but just in that initial rush, and we saw the similar thing our day there. I think it got up to like 120 during that initial rush.
If you look at the touring plan, so let me see if you can compare, because I was listening to Disney Dish with Len Testa, and he had his sister on that was kind of did it the first day of standby, and she said that around 9:30 she got on. She waited about 70 minutes or so ish, a little over an hour, so it was never near the posted wait times. So what was your experience? What time did you get online, and how long did it take you?
Yeah, so our plan was to not do it at rope drop because it seemed like that was a peak time, and then it kind of dropped off after that. We were actually using the Touring Plans Lines app to kind of say, okay, well, when do they recommend getting on? Instead, because early entry had started then, so we were able to get in. We got into the park. Okay. Yeah, so we got into the park about 7:45 ish, and then they were opening up the rides for people that had that were guests at 8:30. We went right to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
Oh, so you were able to go into the park early.
Yeah, so basically what they have is everybody can go in, and then they kind of direct you, but you can't get on the rides until unless you're a resort guest. I've
never been in that park before official open before.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
So that was good. So we were in line, for a little bit before Mickey and Minnie's opened. It opened, I think, at 8:32, and we did that first, and then we went to do Slinky, and then we ate, and then we did Toy Story Midway Mania. So that was kind of like, we were like, let's take care of a lot of those things during the early entry time and let the line for Rise die down for a little bit.
That's a good strategy. So, okay, since we did Mickey's first, what did you think? I think it's the best dark ride on property, and I don't want to say it's better than Rise of the Resistance because Rise is technically a better show, but similar technology, but where Rise is more adventurous and exciting, I think Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is more enjoyable and fun.
Yes. Yeah, fun is probably the word that would come to my mind first. I think it's a fun ride. You love having, a Mickey-based ride, right? Even if it's not my favorite drawing style of Mickey, I think it's still great. It's fun. The pre-show effect is really well done. I'm not going to spoil that for people that haven't done it, but
now let's spoil it because this is a spoiler show, right?
Okay. So what you do is the whole premise is that you're at the Chinese theater to see the premiere of a new cartoon short featuring Mickey and Minnie called Perfect Picnic, and in the middle of it, Goofy's in a train, and the thing blows, and basically something gets stuck in the train, and the train blows up, and it blows a hole into the screen. And I don't even know. I guess it's similar to how they do the door for Enchanted Tales with Belle or whatever. But all of a sudden, there's a big hole, and it looks like the screen's opened up and folded out towards you and stuff like that. And then Goofy's talking to the cast member up front about saying, "Can I invite them into the cartoon?" And that's kind of the whole premise, is that the cartoon broke, and now they're inviting you into the cartoon world, and he is going to take you on a train ride through the park.
I have to say the effect is absolutely amazing. Right, you're in this room, and we're standing all the way back. My youngest daughter, 3 years old, is absolutely amazed by this. It's like, we're going to go be cartoons. We're going into the cartoon, and she was totally sold. It doesn't matter that there was a queue after it, and you had to wait in line, all this other. She's just like, the queue is beautifully done. The artwork is absolutely fantastic. The color schemes, everything else is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
and it does help that the line, once you get past that point, is extremely short at that point. Yeah. Which is really nice. And the ride itself with the trackless vehicles, not only do you have the projections, you have the big screens, but it's just not like you're going past screens like Nemo, right? It's like it's fully included in the whole thing. And the most amazing effect to me is like I sat down and I had a hat on, and the cast member's like, "You might want to secure that." I'm like, "What? Why would I?" Of course, there's the tornado scene where you have wind blowing, so they're using your senses. They drive you. There's three cars per room, and they've got these little cubbies that they drive into and put you right up against the screen as it does the different story elements. I think it was absolutely fantastic. The pacing, the dancing of everything else like that, and you stayed in each environment just long enough to like explore it a little bit, but knowing that you missed something, making you want to go back again.
Yeah, that was my only sort of complaint. And my understanding is it sort of depends which car you're in. You get kind of longer or shorter in each room, depending on which car location you are. There were a couple rooms that I felt like we were barely in. And that, I mean, obviously, like you said, it increases the rewritability. But knowing this was my first ride, I'm like, hey, wait, I didn't even get a chance to really like look at anything. Like, okay, so that was kind of my only negative about it. But otherwise, I thought it was really fun, really well done, great addition to the park, and yeah, I mean, nothing really negative to say. I wouldn't put it into the category of Rise or anything like that. It reminded me a little bit. In Hong Kong, I did Mystic Manor. I think Mystic Manor was done a little better. I still prefer that. But it's a top tier dark ride. I mean, it's really, really well done. And like you said, it's one that pretty much everybody can do, which is nice.
I think this is a gold standard of what they should start replacing dark rides in Magic Kingdom with. Like, Winnie the Pooh needs to be more like Tokyo. Fairy Tale Princess Hall needs to be a dark ride. They need to take out Small. We were talking about this in Discord. Small World is the attractionality that's being rated right now. They need to use that building, get rid of Small World, put it in Epcot, and put like a really cool dark ride with Mickey Minis. It's excellent. Yeah. Going to so you knocked out after that. You knocked out Toy Story Land completely. I'm assuming the lines were pretty good. When were you able to finish the Midway Mania, Slinky, and everything else? So what time are we talking about now?
Yeah, so between Mickey and Minnie, Slinky, eating breakfast at Woody's, and then Midway Mania, we didn't do Alien Swirling Saucers, but we did everything else. We were done by about 10:15 at that point.
And then that's when you head over to Rise?
So we then split up. Actually, we were looking for other things to do because we were going to wait closer to noon for Rise. We were checking the tracker. It still said wait. We were checking because it said it was a good time to do Rock and Roller Coaster, which is my youngest daughter. She's 7. That's her favorite ride.
Excellent.
But none of my other kids wanted to ride it. So we split up. So I took my youngest to do that. And they went on Star Tours.
Okay.
So we split up to do that. And then afterwards we got off. And while we were actually walking to that, we saw Rise went down. So it was closed. So that was another reason that kind of confirmed our decision. When I got out, I saw Rise was back up, and it was, I guess, because it just came up, they were filling the queue again, and the line, it said, now let's ride. So that's when we got in line for Rise.
Do they take everybody out of standby if it goes down, or can you stay in standby?
You can stay. It kind of depends on where you are. And this is jumping ahead a little bit to when we were in line, but they basically announced like it's down. You can either stay or you see a cast member if you want to leave.
Okay.
So
there's an option.
I think if it's going to be down for a really long time, then maybe they'll clear the queue. But at least if it's only going to be, 20 minutes, half hour, or something like that, they basically give you the option.
So how long were you in line then using the app?
So we got in line at 11:18. It said an estimated time of 58 minutes, so less than an hour. Once we were about 40 minutes into it, we were at kind of the room where you start seeing the screens for the resistance and stuff like that. So you're kind of not just in a cave, you're in like kind of the room. It went down again while we were there.
Oh no.
And so then it went back up again, and then it went down again. So we finally got on it. And fortunately, pretty much everything was working, which was good. Basically, all A mode. Still a fantastic ride. Had a good experience with a cast member who my youngest had a R2-D2 dress on, and she was treating her as if she was a droid. She's like, "Oh, how's your droid? Does it have a good memory and stuff like that?" And I responded, "I was like, she's not for sale if that's what you're asking." But so we had a really good ride through it. All in all, we got off at like 1:11, so it was almost 2 hours from when we got in line to when we got off. So not ideal, but it is what it is. But we got on it. We got a great experience, so I can't really complain.
Okay, so now that we talked about Rise, I want to talk about the actual ride itself, right?
Okay.
So the pre-show is pretty cool. I thought the pre-show would be a little bit better. So not saying I was disappointed, but my expectations were a little bit different, I want to say.
Okay.
I don't know what I was expecting, but when they talk about like when you go into the ship and you take off and then the door on the other side opens and you kind of like you're kind of being transported and then you're captured type of thing. I always thought that like that would have a little bit more movement in it, even though it kind of feels like you're kind of jingling around a little bit. I thought it'd be a little bit more extensive. But again, like if my expectations were an A, this was like I got an A- experience then. Okay, let's say. So
I think that I always think that's cool. The fact I love that they have the animatronic pilot and stuff like that. I think it's really well done. What I love about the effect is actually the door you go in is the same door you come out.
Right.
And I don't know if you noticed, but the whole ship rotates while you're flying. So this way you're going out what appears to you the same door, but obviously it's on the flip side now, and that's when you're captured by the First Order, and that's when they bring you into the big hangar room.
And so the hangar room, I mean, we're talking about a ride that got released almost 2 years ago. Like was doing it it's my first time about a month ago. So, in any case, that room I've seen all the pictures.
Yeah,
and
it's hard to avoid pictures of that one. Yeah,
right. And I wasn't trying to avoid that, but like pictures have no justice.
Yeah, just the scale of it it's
absolutely amazing. It's absolutely amazing. The ride itself, I think almost everybody that's listening to this has gone on it with a few exceptions. I think the ride is absolutely excellent, right? You're going through and it's like a whole storyline. The pace is very, very hectic and fast, which I think it feels like in my memory now, it feels like a shorter ride than Mickey and Minnie's, because at least in Mickey and Minnie's, you take some time in certain spots. But other than like seeing like the Finn animatronic and everything else, and Kylo Ren busting through the ceiling with his lightsaber, it's really cool. The one thing that caught me off guard with the whole experience is like, when you go and you kind of get ejected, you go into the escape pod and you do the little store tours action coming down. I thought that was really cool. The family really liked that. The kids dug it. But then I didn't realize the autonomous vehicles actually brought you outside and dropped you off. I was blown away by that. I mean, not that it's so simple and it's not like crazy or anything, but I'm like, oh, I'm being dropped off outside. This is like, it was truly that's why I call it an adventure, right? Like it wasn't fun. It was exhilarating and it was an adventure, right? Because you can't have fun on that because it's supposed to be stressful, but you're being chased by Kylo Ren, right? It's an adventure. And being dropped off that side, it was the perfect, ending to that. Like, you are now being dropped off, on the base type of thing, and you continue on your way through Galaxy's Edge. And then leading up, I was, you got me my boarding pass, so I was on that, at 8, what was it, quarter after 9 or whatever it was at that point. And I was giddy as a schoolboy going past those rebel... I don't know what the displays with the bluish lines that are kind of like vector points or whatever crazy styling that they had back in the 70s for it. Overall, Rise is excellent, but I'd prefer to see more Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
I think Rise is the special one-time thing. I mean, not to say they shouldn't push the envelope with other properties and stuff like that. Obviously I'm looking forward to Guardians and stuff like that. But Rise is kind of like a unique one-time thing. I agree. It'd be more bang for their buck for sure to have multiple Mickey and Minnie's.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so I assume you went back, if I remember correctly, you went back to your room, did some swimming.
We had lunch first. We ate in Galaxy's Edge. We kind of some people got stuff from Ronto Roasters, some from Docking Bay 7. Excellent food. We really like the food there. Everybody ate it all.
Excellent. It's really good. Yep.
And it's good. It's great because it's like a little different in how it serves, but it's still like chicken and mac and cheese. It's like approachable. We also had a really good interaction. Rey was out by some of the speeders and stuff like that, and Chewie was above it. And so my youngest and her R2D went up and had a nice conversation with Rey and stuff like that. So I mean that really adds to the immersion too.
My 3-year-old had a full blown conversation with Chewbacca. I mean, it lasted a solid minute or so of them just going back and forth. She was telling about how she drove down and she was a surprise and all this other stuff. And he's sitting there roaring back at her. Ray was there too, but she was kind of talking to some other people. But that's also a great experience as well.
So after lunch, we came back to the room, which again we obviously skylinered back. It's so crazy how efficient that.
Well, that's what I want to say, because I'm not leave the park in the middle of the day kind of guy, right? And my wife always wanted to do that. But our last trip when we did 2 days, my wife was like, should we go back because it's raining? I'm like, no, it'll be fine. But she powered on through. She didn't want to leave. Yeah. And which is a surprise. So on our upcoming trip in February, we're saying Hollywood Studios and Epcot, if we want to come back in the middle of the day, let's do it. Was that easy? Was it like a pain in the butt?
Super easy.
So
it's like I mean, obviously it depends on where you are in the park. You have to walk out, but the Skyliner station for Hollywood Studios is like right at the entrance. I mean, even though we had to switch to get to the Riviera station, it was like 7 minutes or something altogether. I mean, it's really quick. And then our room was right there. So, I mean, it was, I definitely think the Skyliner Resort, especially Caribbean Beach, because you're at that hub, is great for the midday breaks from Hollywood Studios and Epcot.
Awesome. So you spent some time, did some pool. What time did you get back to the park?
So we did some pool time. We actually probably took a little longer than I thought we would. Also, because the week we had pulled the kids out of school, they were doing some schoolwork that got assigned to them and stuff like that. So it was about close to 6 by the time we got back to the park. We were kind of deciding, do we want to eat at the resort? Looking at menus, we saw more things that appealed to the kids back at Hollywood Studios. So we went back to have dinner there. So right around 6, maybe a little after 6 by the time we got there.
And what did you eat for dinner?
So we actually wound up, we were going to eat at the boat that's in Echo Lake because it had stuff that we all wanted. Got there and realized it closed at 5. I have no idea why it closed at 5. Then we looked at another place that closed at 6. And I'm like, why are all these food places closing early? We wound up mobile ordering and getting food from the Backlot Express because that had stuff the kids would eat. It took a while for them to prepare our order. That was one thing I heard from a few people this weekend, that mobile ordering and food in general was kind of a long bit
Problematic.
But the food we got was tasty. I got a Cuban sandwich. The kids got like mac and cheese and stuff like that. I forget what my wife had, but she liked it. We got this frozen apple cider with whiskey drink that was really tasty. So other than it taking a little while to get there, we wasn't the most amazing meal ever, but it certainly got the job done.
So I think you tried going back on Rise. Is that right?
So at this point, what we planned to do was ride the Falcon, which we did, which was posted like a 20-minute wait. It was like a walk-on. So we wound up doing it.
We were there, it was the same way.
Yeah. So we wound up doing it 3 times. We were going to do it twice, and then my son kind of threw a fit because he wanted to fly the other flight. We're like, you already got to fly it. Now you're pissed off you didn't like it.
He wants to go up and down now.
I know, yeah. So finally we relented and did that. And then we went over to do Rise again. At this point, it was about a half hour before the park closed, and it was down again.
But that's the time to do it, right? You do it first thing in the morning or like mid-morning, and then you do it at the very end. Yeah,
and it had been down at least 4 times that day. So it was not a good day for Rise. Yeah, I mean, it had been doing really well. I can't, I just happened to hit it on a bad day. But we still got on it, so we can't complain too much. Instead, what we decided to do, we went on Slinky Dog again, which is always fun at night with all the lights going on and stuff like that. So that was our makeup for not getting to do Rise.
What I want to do is I want to go hit Rise like 1 minute before park close with adult beverage or 2 and just wait for it. And then you get out of the ride and the park is almost empty, most likely, and everything else. Exactly. Kind of cool. Okay, so we're like all the way into the podcast now, and we haven't even gotten to the 50th birthday already. So October 1st, I'm just going to let you go at it. Here's some things that I have written down. I'm going to let you kind of narrate it and take us on the journey, and I'm going to interject with some questions and some points of interest I might have. Talk about park crowds, right? Because we know there was a huge contrast between food and merch and rides.
Yes.
Did you do Steakhouse 71 on this day, or was that
we did?
Day?
That was our dinner was there. Yep.
I want you to talk about that. Did you use PhotoPass that day? Because I know it was free for everybody on the 50th, or at least you could download the pictures. Yep. I don't know if you got to keep them past that day. Any cool merch that you potentially were able to fight your way forward and purchase? What was your general plan of attack for the day? Where you wanted to saunter around and soak it in, or did you want to get some rides in and have a general normal Magic Kingdom day that happened to be the 50th? And I really wanted to know what your thoughts were on the Nashville Orbiter, because I know it was your first time as well, because it was my first time as well a couple of weeks ago. So, all right. So what time did you get there? Bring us through the day.
Yeah. So we woke up at 5 a.m., left the room at about 5:30 to get the bus at a Riviera again. Bus came at about 5:56. By the time we were at Magic Kingdom through security and stuff like that, it was about 6:30. It was already open. Main Street was already open. All the shops were open and stuff like that. We didn't have too much of a plan of attack. We kind of knew we wanted to look for merchandise first thing because we didn't know what was going to go. I wish we had known more about the plan for merchandise, and Disney probably could have been better about sharing some of that information.
It's just going to be available in mass quantities for like a year. I think the only thing that was unique was probably the 50th map, right? The purple covered map.
Yeah, so we did get a bunch of those, which was good. And then, so we went into the Emporium because that's where the 50th stuff was. It was just bedlam. It was crazy. Like you couldn't move. We actually wound up sending the kids because they were smaller. They kind of snuck through and like grabbed a few things. But while they were doing that, we were hearing that there's actually, we heard that the Big Top Souvenirs was going to have the limited edition, like day and dated stuff. And that's where like the really unique stuff was going to be. Then word came out they were using a virtual queue. You had to find the QR code to scan to join the virtual queue to get in the merchandise tent. So I left the Emporium to look for this QR code, found it. By that point, the virtual queue was full. But they were just like, well, just keep refreshing it and it should open up at some point. So after I did that, I got in line for the cinema, which had the Vault collection, which is
some of the coolest stuff I saw.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, that's where most of the stuff I bought was there, including this.
Is that your shirt? Because I was going to say the Mr.
That's
Toad
my
shirt.
Mr. Toad shirt, and I got my picture with the Mr. Toad statue they have there. It's a very cool room. And then meanwhile, my wife's texting me like, they grabbed this. They got like I actually think I have them here. These like cool ears and stuff like that were hard to find and stuff like that. So my daughter grabbed like the last one of those. It was kind of crazy. And that was, I know you had like, if you had to do something better, I think it would be to have more of a strategy around merchandise. Cause when you were in that moment, you're like, I don't care. Just whatever you can grab.
Buy something.
Yeah, buy something. Exactly. So we probably took that until about 7:30 to get through the merchandise and get on the lines and the different stuff. And
were you able to send stuff back to the hotel? Were they offering that?
We could have done that. We didn't do it. We grabbed it. I wound up later in the day taking a bunch of stuff back to the room because we bought other stuff at various places. I just did a run back to the room. But overall, I mean, it was kind of crazy, but at the end of the day, I was pretty satisfied with the stuff we were able to get. Then we went in because at that point it was still early entry, so only guests could get into the rest of the park. Like everybody could be on Main Street, but you had to be a resort guest to get past that. And that's where the day kind of changed for us because we were shocked at the low waits for rides. Like I wasn't planning on getting on any ride. Like I didn't know. I was like, well, I'd like to get on some of the classic rides or whatever, but if I get on like 2 rides, that'll be a lot. Next thing we know, we're like, all right, let's get on Mine Train. There's like nobody in line. There was like a 5-minute wait for Mine Train.
Wow.
Sorry.
I just want to say like your day changed, right? So you're like, okay, we're going to ride a bunch of stuff. Were you just going to play it by ear? Was that your plan, just to see what was happening and just do stuff? Is that how you kind of entered the park at that point for the day?
Yeah, like we said, we knew we wanted to get some merchandise, and like we knew we wanted to see fireworks, and we had a couple table service meals booked, and we were going to try to meet up with people. We had a couple DBC Discord meetups, which was nice. But other than that, it was kind of going to be played by ear, and if it just meant we wandered around, and then we just wandered around, but we found that we could actually get on a lot of the rides. So we did in that early hour, or early whatever opening, we did Mine Train, Peter Pan, and Small World, and the Carousel. We banged them all out right at the beginning, and like the day had barely started. So we're like, well, we already did like more rides than I thought.
Sounds like my trip.
So, and then at about that point, we were going to, the kids wanted to do the Speedway. So we did the Speedway, which again was like a 5-minute wait, which you never see for the Speedway. And then we were going to do People Mover. The People Mover had one of the longest lines we've ever seen. I think people were trying to do all the kind of the classic things. So it's funny, like some rides you didn't think would have a line did, and then other ones didn't. So we didn't have enough time to do that before our first ARD of the day, which was for breakfast at Cinderella's Royal Table.
That must have been nice. I saw some of those pictures. You had some fancy drinks.
It was nice to go there. They had the premiere of some of the fancy food. They were doing a champagne flight there that both my wife and I got, which was nice. Enjoyed the food there. Everybody really enjoyed it. I had posted some pictures. Cinderella came around a couple times. Right where our seat was, where I was sitting with my youngest daughter, we were able to get nice selfies with Cinderella right behind us and stuff like that. And they still kind of do the lighting effects in there when Cinderella comes out, and they do the wishing star and stuff like that.
That's great.
It still felt like, you didn't get the full princess thing, but it still felt special, being in the castle. The other thing that was kind of odd around then was there were all these reports for the special ceremony they were going to have for being the 50th anniversary, and who was going to be there. It was rumored to be like Jeff Vail was going to be there, the president of Walt Disney World. And people are talking to like tech people, like, well, where's the stage? Where do we go? Blah, blah. In the end, they wound up not having any ceremony. It was really strange.
That's strange, yeah.
And I know a lot of the people we were in our text chat with from the DVC Discord were wanting to see that. And it was just, everyone was posting back and forth. I was just kind of following along while I was at breakfast because I thought it was going to be while we were at breakfast. So that was kind of a strange thing. The other good thing that happened though while we were at breakfast was I kept refreshing and I got a spot in the virtual queue for the Big Top souvenirs, the day and dated merchandise for the 50th. So fortunately we had that spot, and it didn't have an estimated return time. It just said there were 700 something parties in front of me, and just to keep watching it. Yeah. So after that, at this point we didn't really know what else we wanted to do, except my son made it very clear that he wanted a special popcorn bucket. They released a whole bunch of special popcorn buckets that day. They were the Mickey balloons, but in unique colors and had the 50th logo on them. And these were probably the longest lines in the park.
Oh, yes.
They were literally well over an hour, and people were just waiting on them to get them. And he got in.
You couldn't just buy a bucket somewhere?
No, you had to be in line to get these buckets from the popcorn set.
Come on.
So I was like, all right, you realize you're going to be waiting over an hour? He's like, yes, I realize it. You'll go in there. I was like, yes. Okay, I will take your sisters and do rides while you are online for this popcorn bucket. You are okay with that? He's like, yes. I was like, okay. So we went and got online and traded off. And while he's in line, we did Space Mountain. That's when we did the Astro Orbiter. And I think we did something else, all while he just waited for his popcorn bucket. We kind of traded off who was waiting with him.
He wants a popcorn bucket, right?
And he didn't complain once. He didn't. And not to bag on my son, but he's a complainer. So for him to not complain once, I was really impressed, really proud of him for it. Fortunately, we had some nice people behind us in line that we were chatting about. That's one thing that I found. I don't know if it was maybe not some of the bedlam looking for merchandise, but otherwise everyone seemed to be in a really up mood.
That's
everyone
good.
was chatty. Everyone was just happy to be there.
Except for the people that were fighting in the Emporium.
Yeah, except for the fist fight in the Emporium. But you take that out. It's just most of the regular guests seemed really positive about things. And so once we got to the front, we're getting 2 of those buckets. We waited for an hour.
Of course. Perfect.
And then we got one of the regular. They actually had just a regular round bucket too. So we got that, and we were eating popcorn and stuff like that. And that's when we did go on the People Mover. And so we got that ride in because that is my wife's favorite ride in the park. So we got that.
Let me pause here. I'm never I don't eat Disney popcorn. Popcorn sometimes gives me a headache, and it's out in the heat and everything else like that. The popcorn buckets always look awesome.
Yeah,
I'm like, I want one, but then I'm like, what am I going to do with it when I bring it home? I have nowhere to put it. It's just going to keep up so I never get involved with it, but people go crazy for them.
Yep.
So you mentioned that you went on Nashville Orbiter for the first time.
Yep.
I went on it for the first time. 2 points that stuck with me. It goes faster than I thought it was.
Yeah.
Right? When you're landing, it's just zooming around. I was like, wow, this is moving pretty quick. And it kind of tilts you a little bit much. I'm a big guy. I'm like, I'm going to fall out of this thing. I feel like I'm at a boardwalk somewhere and it's a raggedy, carnival ride at this point.
Yeah.
It's cool views, though.
I felt similar, especially because you have the control stick where you can go up or down. And it was really when you were moving up or down, because it kind of moves at an angle, right? Because it's on a pivot point. That's where you really felt like you were going to fall. Once I was at a set spot, I'm like, okay, now I'm okay. But that up and down was, something big. Cool views. Got some cool views into the Tron construction from up there as well.
Yep.
But yeah, it was fun to do it. I don't think I'd ever done it, and there was a 5-minute wait for it. So my wife was literally like, "Go do it. You're never going to see it at a 5-minute wait."
Not?
So I was like, "All right."
So Cinderella's Royal Table was awesome. And then you had Steakhouse 71 for dinner. So am I skipping ahead too much, or did you guys?
Well, the only thing is, so what we did after that, after we did the People Mover, I had mobile ordered to get, because we didn't really have lunch plans, a bunch of the special stuff. They had new things at Aloha Island for the Dole Whip. We got a bunch of those. While we were waiting for it, though, our virtual queue came up for the special merchandise. So we kind of ate all that food quick and then went over to the Big Top souvenirs and got our special merchandise. I felt bad for the cast members out front because people are like, what do you mean there's a virtual queue? Why can't I just go in? And they're like, well, the virtual queue, you got to go here, but it's full. What do you mean it's full? They were dealing with some not so happy people.
Yeah.
But if you were able to get a virtual queue, then they were very organized with where you go in and what you can get. And then there's different rooms. There's a second room that just has the annual pass holder stuff. So we got a couple of nice t-shirts, a pin, a mug and stuff, so we got some nice stuff that's more limited edition. So we're glad about that. Awesome. after we had all that, now we're carrying a lot of stuff. So what we decided was I would take a trip back to the room, basically just to drop stuff off, and then come back. And while I did that, my wife took
How long
the
did
kids.
that take you?
That took me like 2 hours.
Oh, I knew it. Okay.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, that's what I'm saying. When you got to deal with the buses, if you don't just hit, if you're waiting for a bus, and I had to wait kind of on both ends. It took a while. So I mean, it worked out fine. All in all, we were in the park for 17 hours. So even taking even taking like 2 hours wasn't the end of the world. But yeah, for like a normal day, that's a long gap to miss. My wife took the kids on. They did Pirates, Big Thunder, and Haunted Mansion while I was gone. So again, banging out some other rides.
Not bad.
When I got back, we did some photo passes on Main Street. We wanted to make sure we got a couple of those.
Yep.
And then we left and we did another photo pass from the front of the park where they have the new like kind of 50th display and stuff like that. Because on our way out, we did that when we headed over to the Contemporary.
I had weird people in the background. I'm sorry. I had weird people in the back of my photo pass shot of the 50th.
Oh, yeah.
Like people taking selfies, people doing weird stuff. I'm like, it's a nice picture, but it's not frameable.
Yeah. We had a little bit of time before our thing, and what we decided to kids were getting a little cranky. What we did was we did like a lap and a half on the monorail. And my youngest daughter actually took a nap while we were doing that. So she got a little bit of a nap in. But then we did get off in the Contemporary and went down to Steakhouse 71 for our dinner.
I've heard nothing but good things about this place.
Yeah. So it was amazing. Excellent food. It was their opening day, so things were a little slow coming out, to the point that our server actually brought us complimentary. They have an appetizer bread service. You don't get bread included. She brought one out for us because she knew like food was taking a little while. Server's really good. She gave us kind of a history lesson at the beginning, kind of explaining like how that tied into some of the things on the menu and stuff like that. So it was really good. Yeah, and the kids got these special drinks that you drop the thing in and it changes colors and stuff like that. Yeah. So everyone really, really enjoyed their food. My wife had the vegetarian vegetable roll-up thing. I forget what they called it, but she would really like that one.
Isn't it like the take on the beef Wellington, but vegetarian?
Yes, it's a vegetable Wellington.
I heard good things about that.
Yeah. I did get the steak and eggs appetizer, which they are famous for, that a lot of people go on and on and on and on about how good it is. It is really good. I don't know if it was as life-changing as maybe some people go on, but it was really good. And then I got the bone-in pork chop with the chimichurri sauce. Was like the best chimichurri sauce I've ever had in my life. I got a side of mac and cheese. The kids were like inhaling that. It was great mac and cheese. Excellent. So other than it taking a little while, and because we knew we had to get back to get to a spot for fireworks, we didn't get dessert. We felt a little rushed. So even like without getting dessert, it was like 2 hours. But I can't recommend the restaurant enough. And
that sounds awesome.
Not to say it's like cheap, but for what we got, the quality of the food we got for being a Disney restaurant, I thought the pricing was more than fair.
So this one's on my list now because they've got that veggie beef Wellington thing that my wife would probably love, and then I can get a steak or something that's meaty that I don't typically get, and everybody will enjoy it. Okay, so let's. I'm going to sit back. We're going to talk about Disney, as the nerds on the internet like to call disenchantment or Disney enchantment. I mean, if you're a grown person calling it disenchantment after watching it on the awful Disney Park stream, then you should be ashamed of yourself. Okay, so I saw this. I think it was the day before you did because I think it went live on Friday. I want to say, is it Friday?
Well, Friday
excuse me, Thursday, because Friday was the 50th.
Yeah, Friday was the 50th. The Thursday, the evening before, they had like a media event. So the park was closed at that point, but that's when media could come in, and that's when they did their live stream.
So I watched that. Oh my goodness, was it god awful? Camera angles. I don't know if you watched it or not, but the camera angles were bad.
I was trying to keep it a secret. So I haven't watched
don't
it
do it. Don't watch it. So, all right, what's your hot take on the show?
Yeah. So fortunately, we had some people from the Discord server that were saving spots on Main Street. So we were able to join them. It only got more crowded afterwards. We waited about an hour and 45 minutes before it started. We were about a quarter of the way down Main Street, so opposite the bakery. So we could still see because they do the projections on Main Street. So we were kind of surrounded by the projections, but still had a good view of the castle.
Were you on the curb or were you in the middle of the street?
So we were in the middle of the street, but towards the side where the magic shop entrance is.
Yep.
So overall, I thought we had a really nice spot. We could kind of take everything in because there is a lot going on between everything on the castle, the fireworks, and the projections on Main Street. Okay, so my overall take on the show, I think it's a very good show. I think the projections are good. The stuff on Main Street is really fun, adds to it. Doesn't replace, you kind of still need to see the castle. It's kind of just supplemental. The song it made me think more of like an old school Disney song. It's not like kind of that pop song that like Happily Ever After was. Some of the firework effects they do off, and not to, I guess this will spoil things a little bit, but there's this really cool scene with Elsa where she's kind of like pointing to do her snow effects, frozen effects, and the lightning or the fireworks shoot out of the castle, and it looks perfect. There's a bunch of those that look really great.
There's some laser effects that I don't remember.
Yeah, that came out of the castle and stuff like that. There were some really cool effects. You could still see Tinkerbell really well. That seemed to happen at kind of a weird spot.
I missed it. I completely missed it while watching it.
Yeah, it didn't have that kind of big like boom, like here's the moment for it. It kind of just happened. So I need to rewatch it again. Overall, I think it's a very solid show. In a vacuum, I might say it's about equal to Happily Ever After, but I think when you're replacing a show that so many people love and wasn't around for that long, you kind of needed to be better than equal to. And I don't think
Yeah, I mean, I understand that take. I thought the initial song leading up to it was very poor.
Okay.
I didn't like the vocals. I mean, no offense to the person that was singing it. It seemed like off a little bit. And that might have been the TV transmission to it, right? So I'm not discounting it at all. I am totally open of going there and seeing it myself, being in there, and just feeling the magic of being at the parks and all this other stuff. That's all missing from me sitting on my couch with, a beer in hand watching this thing with the kids trying to go to sleep in the background type of thing. I thought it was a little slow. I thought the visuals, parts of the visuals were very good, but I don't think it seemed like it was stitched together a little bit. The transitions weren't perfect.
I agree with that. And I also think the other thing, Happily Ever After, I think, did a better job of using the shape of the castle. Like, how it kind of turned the whole castle. I can't
comment on that too much.
Yeah.
But okay.
Like how Happily Ever After turned the castle into blocks, or there was the part with the genie where like one of the spires was like a rocket. Like there was nothing like that. But some of the projections were really nice. But I don't think it used the shape of the castle.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of weird whether there was lots of parts where there wasn't any singing. So it was just like a fireworks show with some music. And I'm like, I mean, like that's what I mean. If I didn't know Happily Ever After existed, this would have been great. But I'm like, I'm in the Magic Kingdom. I want to sing some of my favorite songs while I'm doing this type of thing. My daughter will like that. There's Moana tossed in there. She's a big fan of Moana. I love the projections, the effects, the pyro, excellent. I didn't get a good sense of the Main Street projections because the stream wasn't very good, but from what I saw, it looked like it was just kind of some cool stuff. Nothing major happening.
Yeah, they do project some at parts, some characters and stuff like that. They kind of go with whatever theme is going on right then. So, like I said, it's a really good addition, but it's supplemental to what's going on in the castle. Yeah. It's not like at Disneyland where they also project on the side of Small World where you can kind of look at that instead of the castle. You still kind of need that view of the castle.
So my overtake, I have to say it for myself, but I wasn't unimpressed, but I wasn't like, oh, this is absolutely amazing. This is Disney's 50th anniversary show. Yes. This is great.
I think that's a fair take. I mean, I think that was similar to I really enjoyed it. I think it's a very good show. If in a vacuum, it would be great. But for the 50th, replacing Happily Ever After, I think it fell a little short of what it needed to be, for lack of a better word.
I agree. Yes. Okay, so we're very late into the podcast, but we're not going to slow it down. Day 3 for you was your Epcot day. Yep. You could talk about. I know you could talk about Epcot over and over again, but there wasn't really much going on at Epcot other than a couple of these highlights I want you to talk about. Okay. Space 220. Seeing some really awesome reviews on that. You got on to see Remy's and Harmonious. So those 3 major highlight points. I saw a picture with you with Michael Bowling, which I thought was really cool.
Yes, so he was just walking around, and I was like, "Hey, Michael," and we chatted for a bit. Super nice guy.
Yeah.
And it was really nice to run into him. For those of you who don't know him, he's a Disney historian and co-host of Connecting with Walt, which is a fantastic podcast.
Awesome podcast.
Definitely recommend.
Sure. And he does an excellent job. He's probably the only when we try to make some of our DBC expeditions, I usually have him in mind. I'm like, do we script the whole thing out like he does? I'm like, I don't have the energy or the talent to do that. And then you had some tweets about different foods and stuff like that. Maybe we could do like a food and wine episode in the coming weeks and kind of go over this, because that's some more. I don't want to say it's mundane, but
it's not as unique to
it's not 50th talk, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk. Let's see. What did you do first out of Remy's, Space 220, or Harmonious?
Sure. So the first thing we did was we woke up early to try to get a virtual queue for Remy's Ratatouille, because they were using that like Rise used to have the boarding groups at 7 a.m. My wife got it this time, so we got boarding group 50. I know I'm slacking, but we got one, so that's all that really matters.
Yes, that's true.
And then so then we went over. It wasn't until later that we were able to ride on that, so we were kind of doing other things around the park. Frozen, waiting on that to come back up. In any event, we were walking around doing food and stuff like that when we kind of realized that due to Remy being down for a little bit, it pushed back our return time. Long story short, it was apparent that our return time would be the same time as our Space 220 ADR. And we're like, well, what do we do? I'm like, I'm sure it'll be fine that we could just tell them. And I was like, why don't we go and talk to them? And I have to give her a lot of credit. She made the right call. We went and talked to a cast member out front, and she's like, oh, well, it was down, so it's kind of delayed, but it just came back up. And we're like, yeah, we're just worried about, how long the meal's going to take if we miss our window. And she's like, let me see what I can do. And she just brings us to the back and brings us right to the lightning lane. And it wasn't like we were like it wasn't ready for our virtual queue. There was like for people who had been called, there was like a 40-minute line to get in.
Oh, wow.
And she just scans our magic bands and puts us right into the lightning
Pixie
lane.
Dust.
Yes. So I already sent the cast compliment for her. Her name was Lindsay. Working it, did a great job. And so we were very fortunate that we got to use the lightning lane, go through and pretty much get right on the ride. So that was kind of the first major thing we did, was riding Remy's Ratatouille Adventure.
So what'd you think? Good
It's
ride?
a really cute ride. I put it like a notch below Mickey and Minnie's, but it's that same type of ride. I've seen a lot of people
Mickey
down
and Minnie's
on
is a 10. If it's a 10, what is Remy's?
Yeah. For a dark ride, I'd say it's an 8.
Okay,
I think it's really good.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's a great addition to the park. Again, something else that everybody can ride. It uses the 3D glasses, so it's a little bit more dependent on the screens, but there's a lot of physical sets too. There's a part when you're under the stove and they turn on like the fire above you and stuff like that. So there's a lot of fun effects. The storyline's a little weird. You're doing all this stuff in the other restaurant, and then all of a sudden you're at Remy's restaurant and everybody's happy. So it's not as good of a storyline as Mickey and Minnie's, but I think it's a really fun ride. The cars are super cute. It's just really, it's a really solid ride. So whether that's an 8, a 7, something like that, but it's definitely worth doing. Assuming it doesn't go down, it has high capacity. So once kind of the new car smell wears off a little bit,
it's just going to run people through.
It's just going to crank people through and stuff like that. So that was great. And then we pretty much went right from there to Space 220. So that's where we had our lunch reservation for. And we went over there and, didn't really they took us right away basically as our ADR was ready. And the first thing they do is they have this whole setup like it's a lobby, because you're going to take this elevator up into the space station. Lots of signage. They would give you like a boarding pass to go on, and they took you in and they tell you all about it and the facts, how many miles per hour you're going to be going. And, the effect is really, really well done. They have screens.
I heard it's awesome.
They have screens above you and below you. And as you're looking below, you see Epcot, and then you follow by, and all of a sudden, eventually you can see the whole state of Florida and stuff like that. It's like, it's done really well. Do
you feel it? Do you feel it as you go up? Like
it shakes a little bit. Yeah, it does shake a little bit. I mean, it's not like a ride, but it shakes a little bit. It's fairly. I mean, it's an elevator. It's fake, but like it's fairly convincing. I think it's more than just like somebody shaking you a little bit. Like the screens are well done and stuff like that. And it's nice that they have the screen above you and below you, so you kind of really feel like you're going up to the station. After you dock at the station, they bring you past the where they're growing the vegetables that they use in the restaurant. It's kind of in this whole system again. They use some effects to make it look bigger than it is, and then you have that kind of wow moment when you get into the room and you see the whole big screen in front of you, and you can see Earth below you, everybody's having a good time and stuff like that.
So my initial impression, because obviously I haven't been down there, it's very underwhelming from all the pictures and videos that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
But I just tell myself they probably do zero justice for the scope. So go over what your initial impression was after seeing maybe did you spoil it a little bit seeing some of the
I had
reviews?
seen it. I mean, I was trying to not watch video of like the elevator and stuff like that, but it was hard to avoid, kind of photos and stuff like that. And I did want to see reviews, like, so I knew what to order and stuff like that. So I kind of knew about the room. It is really impressive when you get in there. Just the scope of it and how it's set up. It just looks futuristic. Even things like the silverware and stuff like that look
a lot of people talk about
and
that
stuff. It's just impressive. It's, not to jump ahead, I do think they could do more with the screenage. Like one thing that kind of jumped out at me is like, even when you're looking down on Earth, Earth looks static. Like you would think you'd see like clouds moving and stuff like that. You don't really see that. The astronauts that come by are fun, but it feels like this is just like the start of what they can do with it. And I'm hoping that's the case because it's very cool, but it feels like they could do more.
I thought they would have like another space station out there where you can see ships come and go and dock, like give you something to watch while you're waiting for your food. Because everything I've seen, it's just basically here's the Earth and space, and that's it.
Yeah, well, they have like some astronauts come by, and they have like a family walking a dog in space, and they have a couple space shuttles come by and stuff. But they're just kind of like, okay, they went by, like, okay, So it's very cool, but I think they could do a little more with it.
Let me ask you this: Is this restaurant the one and done? Do you go every other trip, or is this something that you would want to do like every time you go?
So it's definitely not an every trip thing. I mean, largely just because of the price. I mean, like, just to give you an idea, our meal there was 50% more than our meal at Steakhouse 71.
Ooh.
And I would rather eat at Steakhouse 71. The food was good, though. I know that, initially some of the reviews were coming out and people were like, oh, the food doesn't look that special or whatever. I thought everything we had was very good. My wife
I heard good reviews of the food.
My wife inhaled her salmon. She loved that. I got the steak. I thought the steak was really good. Drinks were fun, a little on the sweet side. Kids enjoyed their food. My daughter got the burger, was good. So everything was like really good, but I don't know. I definitely think it's worth doing once. I would definitely do it again, but it's not going to be like, oh, we got to do this every trip.
Right. I'm going to leave it at this. I like the names on the menu. I think they did a good job naming it. It's corny, but it's like a fun kind of corny to it.
So I think it's fun. If I know some people were like, seemed a little underwhelmed with food. Don't let that, like, if you're interested in going, go. There's enough good food there to have. But it is kind of a special occasion place. And like I said, I hope they kind of keep evolving it. Like, if this is all they do with it, then I'll be a little disappointed. Hopefully they kind of keep evolving it.
Well, I think in either this week or in a couple weeks, I forget what it was, the lounge is going to be available for walk-ins, right? So you won't need any.
Yeah, so right now my understanding, what they were doing is the walk-ins were just for the bar.
Right, the lounge.
And the lounge seating, they were the actual seats in the lounge.
Oh, right. Okay, so
they
there's a difference.
They were going to be sitting. They were sitting people who had ADRs. But I think long term, the idea is that those seats would be walk up as well.
So that's something maybe if you just want to get the experience, you buy a couple drinks or something like that.
Yeah. So there was long lines out front of the people that were waiting for the bar seats. So that's one thing you can do. But yeah, you might have to commit to waiting for it, but save a little money because you don't have to do the prefix there.
Okay, so we waited 1 hour. I don't know what are we at? 1 hour 15 minutes for your opinion, Mr. Epcot, on Harmonious.
Yeah, so I set up. I got a good spot. Tops of the fireworks were cut a little by trees, but we were at a railing so the kids could see everything. There wasn't much in front of us, so I had really like straight on view of the Stargate and the taco barges. And my reaction is, I think it was freaking awesome. I know that's like a hot take among Diz Twitter and stuff like that. Everyone says it's awful and needs to be blown up and stuff like that.
Diz Twitter needs to suck it, basically.
They just need to take a break, I think, or something.
They need to take a vacation, not to Disney. Go outside, do something.
But I thought it was great. It's a little, it's there's so much going on. I mean, you see these barges going, they all have these arms that are like metal giant arms that are shooting off fountains and shooting fireworks at the land.
Great.
and then fireworks come from the land and go at it. It's almost like there's like a battle between the two.
Were you standing near one of those launch points on the side?
No, we actually weren't. We weren't too close to them. They were, because we were kind of by one of the stores, so we weren't really near any of the countries. So we could see them all, but we weren't really close to where one went off.
I don't know what stream I was watching, or what. Actually, I was watching the park stream, but I don't know whose video I was watching afterwards that they were right there. I'm like, you're getting like PTSD from those things. Those like if those look like rocket mortars coming out like right from your feet. I thought that was pretty cool. My hot take again. We saw this. That debuted this 28th. Was it a Tuesday, the 28th that we debuted it?
So no, it was the first
the
one was the 29th. Yeah.
29th, Wednesday. So I watched the Parks blog on it, and I don't really care about being spoiled because I want to get a taste of it. I want to know where to stand, what to expect. Yep. So when I go there, I can just be like, I can consume it and not have to worry about it. You're right. I mean, like the barges, I never was anti-barge, but then again, I haven't seen the barges in person. Last time I was there, they weren't in yet. Or I didn't go to Epcot last time I went. Anyway, and it was a spectacular. The lights with the water, like everybody's like, oh, the water jets are kind of corny. I'm like, no, they're cool. It's like, it's beautiful.
It looks great. And I didn't realize they were going to have like, there's mist above the Stargate that they project on too. I mean, it was like there's stuff everywhere.
It's everything's going on. Obviously, you have to have the right viewing angle of it, but it's a giant spectacle, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. People were also complaining that there wasn't a story element to it. It wasn't telling a story. It was just like, oh, there's just songs, different languages, and then it kind of ends. And for me personally, like when you're in Epcot, there's no story in Epcot. You walk from country to country. When you leave one country, that country ends, and then you begins a new journey in another land. Yeah. And I think the perfect, I might be missing the marketing from Disney. Shame on me, but like, it's a celebration. Is Epcot is that the marketing PR for Epcot? I want to say like one's adventure, one's like Animal Kingdom's adventure. Is Epcot like celebrate? I know there's a key word that they're promoting. Anyway, it's a celebration of world cultures. It's just kind of showcasing a bunch of different stuff, languages and visuals, and of course you got the Disney IP that's tied into every single square inch of it. I thought the show, I wasn't looking for Happily Ever After, even though they use all the Happily Ever After characters in it. But like, I can't wait to go and just kind of be like, just stand back and look, whoa, that's
exactly what we're doing. Everything that would happen. And there were so many, and not just us, like everyone around us, there were so many like, whoa, like, oh my God, that was awesome. And like the music was really good, especially the Coco part. The kids were dancing and like, I mean, it was just really fun. I see it not really a story, but a theme of music being something that connects all of us. And they demonstrated that by having the same song, you would have different language parts in different languages, and saying like that unites us, and which is sort of the mission of Epcot, right? Like uniting across the countries and stuff like that, and that we're all connected. And obviously they're using the Disney IP, and you could say like, oh, some of them they're always going to representation of the countries or whatever. But if you don't overthink it, I think it's just amazing technical spectacle, and really good music. And I just think it's fun. I think it's, it is that step forward over Illuminations and Epcot Forever and stuff like that. It is that evolution of the show. And I mean, you can like it or not, but I think it's a really, really good show. As for, I will just comment on the viewing point. There's definitely some spots that are better than others. There's a few spots where you're kind of just seeing the edge of one of the taco barges, and like, that's not great, but you can be pretty wide and still see what's going on in that center circle. So it's not as bad as I thought it would be. So it's more of, rather than having to find a really good spot, you just kind of, I think, have to avoid bad spots.
I think there's a lot of people are complaining on Twitter about like, oh, you can't see it unless you sit direct center. And it sounds like most people are happy from where they are for the most part.
Yeah, I even heard from some people who only saw from the side, like didn't see the Stargate at all. They said they felt like they got the whole story from what was on the taco barges and stuff like that. So yeah, like I said, there's a few spots where you're maybe looking on the edge of something, but overall I was worried about that, but I don't think it was nearly as bad as I was fearing.
So my hot take from this whole thing, after it's kind of it settled in, marinated in my brain a little bit, is taken in a vacuum, Harmonious is a far superior show than Enchantment.
Yes, I agree. I that's my thoughts 100%.
And the only thing that might bring Enchantment over Harmonious, and this is me personally, is just like the feels that you get for being in the Magic Kingdom all day, right?
Sure.
Because there's a little bit more feels and quote unquote magic in the Magic Kingdom. At least for me, my favorite park, right? So Epcot for you might give you a little bit more feels being in there, right? Personal take.
Yeah.
Okay, so now when Spaceship Earth lit up, I've heard different people's reactions to this, all positive, obviously. Yeah. I was listening to the Len Testa podcast, and he says when he was there, he heard audible gasps when it started lighting up. So what happened?
So that starts while we were waiting for Harmonious. The ball, Spaceship Earth comes up, and you're just watching these patterns go by, and it's just like, I mean, I never got that close to it when it was lit up. That if there's one downside to being on a Skyliner resort,
I'm showing you a picture of I had it up there.
From the Skyliner. You don't go through the front of the park, so you're not leaving with the ball and stuff like that, because we're going out the International Gateway. So if there's any downside to the Skyliner, it's that. But it's really cool, and we could see it well from the Skyliner and stuff like that. And everyone's like constantly like, "Oh, now it just changed. Now it's like a different pattern thing and stuff like that." So that's definitely one of the coolest things they've done in a while.
So it was on before the show,
yeah.
Because for my take. And I didn't really dig deep into it. I didn't ask any questions. I just assumed that it came on for the first time at the end of the show.
I mean, I don't know what it did. We were there on the second night, so maybe they did something special on the first night. But our night, it was definitely on because we were watching it before the show started. So we could see it from our spot, yeah.
All right, so you had a really good vacation. You had I was following along with your Universal trip, and it seems like that was really awesome. We'll probably talk about that next week. So you had 3 action-packed days.
Yes.
At the World. It seemed like even though Magic Kingdom we thought was going to be a super duper swamp of people, it seemed like you had an amazing day. Yeah. Even though you spent an hour for popcorn and 2 hours to run back to your thing, you were there for 17 hours.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you, was the trip worth it? Because obviously it was. I think you had, a trip full of memories. So so we're going to rebound back on some of my takes from my September trip. Did Disney feel like it was still missing? Was the magic still there?
So the magic was definitely still there. I mean, I still get those goosebumps walking down Main Street.
I did too.
Even the stuff in Hollywood Studios, I still get, goosebumps at Galaxy's Edge and stuff like that. Obviously, I could just walk around Epcot, every day and be happy. So 100% it was there. All the extra stuff. It was really nice seeing some of the live music come back. I didn't mention this for our Magic Kingdom day, but the Main Street band, the marching band. Oh,
very nice, cool.
So I saw them out. Actually, it was when I was doing my leave for break. I saw them out. They were out in Fantasyland. I think it's the Main Street Philharmonic they call it. And then as I was leaving, the Dapper Dans were singing on the train station.
I missed them too.
So it's like it feels like I think more of that live music, live entertainment coming back. Now that we hear character meets are coming back, that's good. We like I said, we had some good interaction with some of the princesses on the princess float and stuff like that. So we definitely saw some characters. So I think it's still a different trip. It's still not back to quote unquote normal. Obviously, we have the DCI. It's not back to 100%. But I think it's getting to the point where it's worth doing a trip. Maybe not your first trip or something like that, but if you've been missing it, don't hesitate to go back. I think the magic's there.
That was partially my take, right? I think the difference between your trip and my trip were maybe like 3 or 4 DCI points.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That might be the difference, right? That would be an interesting
hitting that 70
metric,
point
right?
metric, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? So that would have been interesting. In retrospect, we should have sent somebody, because we're obviously super wealthy people from all the money we make from this podcast, down at different DCI metrics, like at opening, and then at 5% increases, right? Like, what is my whole point when I went? Obviously, the parks were empty because it was a week after Labor Day. And I knew when you went down, I'm like, you know what, he's going to have an amazing experience because they're going to have all the stuff for the 50th anyway. So I think that was going to be like the major change and the energy of the place.
Yes,
on the 50th, because you're there with the Uber fans.
The Uber fans, the energy, like I said, was super high. People are happy to be there. That probably helped compared to like not to say people weren't happy when you were there, but it was probably another level when we were.
Oh, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the people there were great. We had like for example, I was like doing something for somebody else at least once on the trip, And I remember we were walking towards Happily Ever After, and I always go to the dollar store and buy like a ton of like the glow bracelets and stuff like that for my kids. And as I was we were walking at a brisk pace, and I'm putting together, my wife's pushing the stroller, and we're walking next to another family just randomly. And I see the kids just kind of eyeing me up like, what is he doing? So I had a bunch of extras. Like I handed it to the moms like, hey, if you want to put these on for the kids, you're more than welcome. And they're like, oh, thank you, that type of thing. So, I mean, you still had that little bit of magic there. But I'm happy to see that, like, you know, the meet and greets that are coming back, the live music, because that's what was missing. It felt like the Magic Kingdom was just blank. It had all the attractions that you love. It had all the smells and the sights and the sounds. But it didn't have the street atmosphere. It didn't have. It wasn't alive. It had the people, but it wasn't alive otherwise. And I'm happy to see that the Dapper Dans were there, the band was there, all that, because that's what makes the park the park. Yeah, right?
Exactly.
And I don't think I saw Mickey once at the Magic Kingdom when we were there. And that's usually we always do the because didn't that just open to the or slated to come back, the opening ceremonies, the stage?
So yeah, they did the stage show on October 1st. I'm not sure if it was special for that day or if it's back again.
I thought I
think we were riding rides when it happened, so we didn't see it, but it did happen that day. Yeah, the one at the castle. They're obviously not doing it at the train station like they used to do. It's
right. I always, on our first Magic Kingdom day, even if I make sure we get there for rope drop, but I always make sure we do the stage show that first day, because to me that's just like welcome to your vacation, right?
Yeah.
So, and you get to see all the characters and start your day, even though you're sweating and in the.
Oh my God, I sweated so much this weekend.
Last question I have for you, Phil, because this has been an excellent trip report. Appreciate it. What would you have done differently with hindsight? Would you have done it differently?
So knowing the dates and everything, I don't think there's much I would do differently. The big thing is I think I would try to have had more of a plan related to merchandise. Mm-hmm. I feel like we just were kind of like, just grab
that
stuff,
would have been
get
impossible.
it. Like, and I think it would have been hard. We probably could have done a little bit better job than we did, like just saying, well, what do you want? Like that type of a thing. Because even like my wife's like, I got this shirt for you. Like, and then I'm like, this doesn't fit me. The thing's huge. I'm like, so I gotta like sell it or something. But like, so I think just we could have been a little bit more prepared with that. But otherwise, I really can't think of anything. I was really happy with kind of the places we ate, the things we did. We took enough breaks. The kids got their schoolwork done. So overall, I would say, and this is maybe jumping ahead a little bit, if in a normal situation, I would flip-flop and do Disney first and Universal second.
See, I was just going to bring that up. I'm like, would you flip it? Because I wouldn't. Like, just as somebody who's never done it, right? This is just my virgin take on it. You want to do Universal. It's exciting. You're paying for the accommodations, the Express Pass. It's a new experience, right? You know, that type of thing for you. I would want to do that first, get your juices flowing, but then you want to end your vacation with the best stuff, right? Yeah. I that's how I feel. Like, I mean, I could be completely wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, at least based on this trip, I found the Universal stuff to be a little easier, and we were taking more breaks, and we loved the pool there. Like, it just felt more vacation-y versus like a Disney trip, which is kind of like a whole thing.
A mess.
Yeah. So it felt like I could recover a little more during my Universal time.
So you would have been okay with getting down there the day of your fireworks cruise, right? You land, you're up at like 4:00 in the morning, airport down, cruise, sleep, 1, 2, 3, boom, Hollywood Studios, Magic Kingdom, Epcot. As soon as Epcot's done, you woke up and you go over to Universal, and then you have to do a far inferior park with all the stuff going on. That wouldn't put a damper on your Magic Kingdom.
I guess that's the flip
experience,
side of seeing
right?
it, that it would feel like, oh, we're coming down from there. But I just know how exhausted we were at the end, and just trying to like get to the airport and get home. And like, I mean, maybe it's because then I had to leave at 6 a.m. the next day for a business trip. I'm just like spent, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like our days at Universal were easier, and so that's why I'm thinking of it like we don't use it as like recovery time before we get back to the real world. But
I don't know.
I think you could go both ways.
I don't think you should. Well, I would have done it exactly how you planned it, right? I would do the Universal, dip your toes into the stuff, and you like you said, it does seem easier because there's not as many high points you want to hit. Like if you miss this, that, and the other, it's not like the Disney experience is missed type of thing. maybe next time if you ever do it, you book just a hotel stay somewhere for one extra day and just do a full pool day before you have to race back to the
I mean, maybe that's the way to do
it.
Yeah, it's some way to have some recovery time, yeah.
Because what would be better than just getting your one night at the Poly and then detoxing at the pool or at Trader Sam's for one full day and then watch the fireworks and then go to sleep and wake up and go to the airport.
All right. Well, if you pay for it, I'll do that.
Can you even stay with 5 people at the Poly other than a bungalow?
Yeah, you
can have
5
person sleepers?
The regular rooms, it's like we did that at the Contemporary. They have the full down.
Oh, okay. Very good. I never really looked into it because I've been looking for 6 for the last couple.
You can do 5. 6 you can't, but 5 you can.
All right, I'm going to end it there because we just hit the magic hour and a half mark, and but I think it was worth it. If you're still listening or watching after all this, thanks for staying all the way through. If you have any questions for Phil, make sure you tweet him out at to him on social media or join us on Discord where you can kind of see the written version of everything.
Yeah, I'll get into a little bit more like kind of minute by minute detail in there. So.
Or you can log in and scroll all the way up and see it all happen live as he kind of was experiencing that type of thing. But anyway, thanks guys for listening. Next week we'll probably continue DBC Expedition. We'll dive deeper maybe into Phil's experience at Universal and some of his planning versus execution of the Universal side of things. With that being said, have a good day, everybody, and see you next time. Take care.
Take care.